Hello, everybody. You're all welcome to the week 4 of Maxify Bootcamp training, becoming a backend developer, brought to you by Maxify Global. My name is James Inas, and I'm a full stack developer at Maxify Global. And this is actually a pre-recorded class due to the technical issues we had on Saturday. So I'm taking this class as a pre-recorded class, which the video will be released to us tomorrow by God's grace. And so this week, um, we are going to be building application with Django. And then today, precisely, we're going to be building a blog app. So the objective of today's training is essentially on how to build a C.R.U.D application. And then we're also going to be looking at Django forms. And then we're also going to be discussing about authentication systems in Django. And then lastly, about models, Django models. So at the end of today's session, all participants are expected to be able to build, learn how, at least how to build a simple blog application that has C.R.U.D functionality, and also understand Django forms and Django authentication system. If you recall, during the week 3 class, we built a very simple app known as the Pages app that basically displays the static pages. And then we also looked at a note app. Then, so these are just basic apps that just highlighted about, I've talked briefly about Django models. So we're going to be looking into forms and authentication system in this class. So it's really going to be a very long one, and I believe it's also going to be interesting. So I need us to really focus and listen attentively to whatever we're going to be discussing today, because these things are essentially going to form the fundamentals, the backbone of how Django application works. And I hope you all remember the concept of model views and templates that comes with how Django website works. So this is essentially Django architecture or style of web development, where the model stands for your data, and then the view stands for like the functions or classes that controls your request, and then the template is what we display to the user. So yeah, basically that's what we're going to be looking at, building a blog application, a full C.R.U.D application. So without wasting much time, let's jump into today's class. So as a demo, I'm going to be showing us a practical example of what we're going to be building. So this essentially is the blog application we're going to be building in this class. So if you look at it, it's a very simple app that has the listings of blog posts, and then we have first, second, third posts. This could be about 10, 15 posts, depending on how many posts you have. So if you click on any post, it will take you to the detail page of the post, and then you can see the author of the post. In this case, that's me, and then the date at which when the post was published, then the content of the post. So yeah, if you go back to the home page, click on the third post, and see it also has its own detail page. So what we're going to be implementing is how to build this kind of application that lists content. There's a regular pattern in web development where you just see listings of either movies or articles or products, so this, we're going to be modeling that pattern where you have listings, and then when you click, you view the detailed page of that particular item with all the information. Then in addition to that, we're also going to be looking at authentication. If you look to my right, top right corner, you will see a sign up and login button. So let me quickly show you how it works. If I click on login, you'll see that it prompts me to enter my username and password. So let me just log in. I have actually created an account before and then put in my password to log in. So with this, you can now see that I'm logged in. How do I know? If you look at the navigation bar, you will see my name, hi James, and then you can now see that I now have the permission to create a new blog post. So I'm quickly just going to create a new blog post. Title, let's say, what post, author, just to Jimmy, then write this is the hot blog post. Easy. Once I save, it's going to add this post to the list of posts I have in the home page, on the home page rather. So you can now see that I have my fourth post here, and then I can, I can edit it. Go back. I can edit the post here. Say I have something like this, edited, and edit the post. And update, and I can also delete the posts, which let me just for reference purposes, I'm just delete. It's asking me to, are you sure you want to delete the first post? So if I click confirm, it's going to delete the post. You can now see that it's no longer listed. So now you can log in as well, log out as well. I'm logged out already. I cannot create a new post. You can now see. So let me quickly sign up and then pass in maybe username of Maxify, password, once I click sign up, it's going to create an account for me. Yeah, account has been created and it's asking me to log in. So let me log in with my credentials, which is Maxify, for username and my password. So once I create an account, once I log in, you'll see now I have Maxify. So this is a basic authentication system that we're going to be implementing in this project alongside a C.R.U.D application, which is the blog. So it's really going to be, very basic, but these are core functionalities of building web applications, modern web applications. Now go to my home page and I can log out. So let's jump into the code and start right away. So right now, this is my terminal where this project is running. I'm just going to stop the server. Yes, clear my terminal. Now, go back to this material. So now, like I said, we are going to be building a blog C.R.U.D application that allows users to create, read, update, and delete posts. So the home page will read or list all blog posts. and there will be a dedicated detailed page for each individual blog post, like I just demoed. So the detail page will also enable functionality such as edit and delete posts. Just showed you guys. Then we'll also be introducing CSS for styling of the blog post. So what you see here is just some basic Bootstrap styling, nothing complicated, just a navigation component with a header and then the list of items, very basic. So we're going to be leveraging on Bootstrap for these functionality. So let me jump back into the editor. So for this project, we're going to be first, there is a process. We're going to initialize our project and then create a virtual environment and run our server. So, but before then, I'm just going to read out what we're going to be doing to bootstrap our project, like to create a bare-bone Django project. So first, we're going to create a new virtual environment under called blog app and then activate it. Then we're going to make a new directory file code called blog inside our virtual environment, and then install Django in the new virtual environment. Then we'll create a new Django project. So let's just jump in. Then we take it step by step. So now I'm actually inside my terminal. So I'm going to create a directory called my blog, essentially, or let's say blog, right? I'm going to create a directory called blog. Okay, but first, I think I need to first let me deactivate the virtual environment before delete this folder. Well, now I think I'll have to deactivate it for the project I did the demo for. So the command is under the activate. So now I'm going to deactivate this virtual environment and then I'll create a brand new, new environment. Now I'm in the default base environment. So now that I'm here, let me make a new directory called blog. Then go into the blog directory. So now I'm inside this new blog directory that I created. So what I'm going to do now is to create a new virtual environment inside this blog directory. And I can do that with the conda command under create -n, that's n flag. Then I'm going to give my virtual environment name as blog app. That's going to be the name of the virtual environment, blog app. Then I'm also going to specify the Python version 3.9. So the command is simple: conda create -n, which is like a new, n stands for new, flag, -n flag, blog app, the name of the environment, which is the blog app, then with the Python version. If I hit this, hit enter, is going to, conda is going to do its magic and then create the virtual environment for me inside this blog directory. So let's just wait for it to do its thing. So go back. So once the virtual environment has been created, the next thing is to activate the virtual environment. Then we move on to installing Django inside our environment, because we would always install Django for us to to make use of the defaults. Django is a framework. So for us to make use of default Django um, classes, methods, or the APIs in general, we have to install Django and then follow the specifications for all the files and configurations that we need to do for the project works. So it's telling me to proceed, yes. So now let's try to create my virtual environment, verifying transaction. So once that is done, like I said, we install Django and then we also create a new Django project and then a new Django app. We're going to take that step by step. We've done this process before in our previous class last week. It's a standard, all Django projects takes this basic processes. And I also want to remind us that you can actually create your virtual environment without Conda. You can use the built-in Python BNV package, and then you can use BitM, and then there's this other one, virtual ENV. So there are a lot of packages you can use to create your virtual environment. But in this case, we're using Conda to create one. So yeah, now we have our virtual environment created and it's telling me to activate it with this Conda activate blog post command. So I'm just going to copy and paste this and try to activate the virtual environment. Yeah, as you can see now, we are inside the blog app virtual environment. Just clear the console. Yeah, we have our virtual environment. And inside the virtual environment, you can see how do you know due to this brackets, this blog app in brackets symbol here. That's how you know you're inside of it. So now, next step basically is to now install Django into that virtual environment. And it's a very simple command. So to install Django in our virtual environment, all we need to do is pip install Django, right? So this command will install a brand instance of brand installation of Django. And if you're curious about what version of Django is going to install, it's going to install the latest version of Django inside our virtual environment in the blog directory. So let's just quickly run the command and see what happens. So this might take some few seconds because it's going to do it with data, with the internet connection. Yes, so as we can see, this pip install command is actually installing Django and all of the packages. So right now we are having Django 4.2.11 as the version of Django installed. This project, we also have SQL parse, easy data. So all of these things, typing extensions are the dependencies our project needs. Django needs all of these dependencies to run Django project, essentially. That's what's doing. Once that is done, then we'll have to create a new Django project. And if you recall, the command for doing that is Django admin start project. So the name of the project we're looking at is actually going to be called a blog project. So let's go back. It's still installing. Once it's done installing, create our Django project. Then after creating our Django project, we'll create a new app called blog. Create a new app called blog, then we'll perform migrations and all. Straight to installing. Okay, so it has finished installing. Now it's time for us to create a brand new Django project, and the command we do right now, there's nothing in the blog directory. Everything is inside the virtual environment. The installation of Django we just did is not visible at the moment because it's hidden inside the virtual environment. So now let's do Django admin start that project. So the name of the project is going to be blog project, right? Now, let's not forget to add the dot symbol, because if we don't add the dot symbol after the project name, it's going to duplicate this blog project directory. It's going to create it twice, and we don't need that. That's like redundancy. So once we run this command, it's going to create a Django project for us. List all the things that this command, the command has created for us. So you create a project for us called the blog project, and then in addition to that, we have to manage the file that has been created for us. So now I'm going to open this blog directory in my VS Code editor so that we can see it visually. And the command for that is just to do code dot. It's going to open VS Code inside this directory. Once I hit that, so an instance of VS Code is booting. Let me just clear my terminal and then have a look. Yeah, we can see the loading, but before then, the next thing to do is to actually now, okay, you can see we have this project open. This is what we created, the blog project, the Django admin start project command created for us blog project, because we named it blog project, and then also created manage.py for us. I've done the explanation of what this file means in our previous class. Let me just increase this a bit so that we can see what we're doing. Okay. All right, now I'm going to create another app called, I'm going to create another app. Yeah, and I'm going to create an app right now called the blog. So like we said, a Django project is a collection of different applications that make up our project, right? So we now have the project. Next thing is to create an application, because we're building a blog, right? So the blog is going to be an app inside our project. So it's very simple. The name of the app is going to be called blog. Once we do that, then we run migration to the database. This migration will actually create a database for us. And then we add the app we just created inside our settings of Firefox. So let's just do that quickly. Move on. So now we'll do Python manage.py start app. The name of the app is called blog. So we can run this command successfully because we have a manage.py file which helps us with all of those built-in commands, right? So we're calling this file to help us start an app called blog. Once I do that, hit enter. Yes. So create an app called blog here. When I go back to my test code, I can now see that we have a blog app already created for us. Cool. Next is that we're going to add this app inside our settings of file. Remember, each time you install an app or create an app in your project, you have to add it here so that Django knows that you have that app setup. So the name of the app is called blog. Simple as that. Just put the name of the app here, and then that's all. Save the file. Now we move to creating migration, right? Let's create our database. But before then, I just want to do a quick check to see. Right now, we don't have any record of database in our settings file. You can see it's just, okay, right? We have the database configuration already, but the actual table hasn't been created yet. So we just have the configuration to say that the default database is SQLite3 database. So now this migration command we're going to be running now create the actual database table for us. So, and to do that, we just need to run Python manage dot py migrate, right? So once we hit that, hit enter. Just trying to create. We look at our Django project, we'll discover that in the installed app, there are some basic apps that have been created for us by default. Django created, one of it is the Django contrib admin. This helps us with navigating to the admin interface. Then we have another one called Django contrib bot. This is the authentication system that comes built in with Django. So all these apps have been created for us. We have the messages, we have the static files. So running that migration will actually initiate tables for all of this, especially for the authentication system, right? So that's what one of the things the command does for us. You can see it just applies the migrations to creating tables. You can see alt user, username, email, and all of this stuff, right? So once we clear the terminal, now the next logical thing to do from our step is, okay, we've updated the blog project settings file, right? So, and then we added, yes, we just added the blog app. You can decide to add the blog application this way, or you can just you can just use the name of the blog as it is. Now let's run our server to see if our installation works perfectly. We should see the brown instance of the Django available. Let me just Python manage to spy run server command, see if we can have an instance of a fresh Django available project. Yes, this is going to take. Okay. So yeah, we have our app running at port 8000. Just quickly go to the browser, things, see. Now, if I do this, now see that. Yeah, so as you can see, the install worked successfully. Congratulations. Okay, cool. Now we're going to move on to building the actual application for today's class. First, we're going to start with the database model. So like we've established that in Django, we have the model, we have the views, and then we have the templates. So the model is actually what handles our data in our application. So when you're typically building any application, data is very, very important, right? Because that's how you interpret. Computers only understand data. So the model.py file is where we define our data for whatever application we're building, right? So you can see from the Django documentation, it says a model is the single definitive source of information about your data. So it's just all about your data, right? Information about your data. In this case, we're building a blog application. So what does a blog application typically have? What are the data that are contained in a blog application? So the model contains the essential fields and behavior of the data you're storing. Generally, each model maps to a single database table. So if we create our model right now, Django is going to create a table for us for that model. So each record, each data we pass into that table will now become records in the database table. So the model essentially now translates to a database table. So Django has that mechanism to transfer any model we define into a database table. And like we said, the model is the single definitive source of information about our data. So let's move back. So in our Django application, let's think about it in our blog application rather. To keep things simple, we're going to assume that our blog is going to have a title, an author, the body for text, content, and then the publish date and probably the create date, right? So now, next is to look at, for us to define all of these fields, these are like the individual records or fields inside the post table by the time we define the model. Now we can turn into the database model by opening the blog models of Python and entering the code below. So I'm going to explain what we're doing. So inside the blog application, by the time you move into the models of Python, in this case, we're talking about if you open the blog application, now you'll see a file called models of Python. In this file, you can see this file is empty. I'm going to delete everything we have and paste this code here. Then I'll explain shortly what we're doing. Each of this code, I'm going to explain what it's doing just to save time. Now we have, this is the code we need to write inside our models of Python. First, we're importing, everything is a dependency, but we are going into Django, the DB, and then we're importing the models, right? Because we need to work with this class called, this file called models. So we're going to Django, DB, and then importing models. Then we're also importing URL from Django.urls, we're importing reverse. You don't need to memorize any of these things essentially. These are just from Django. We're importing some of the dependencies we will need in these files. We're also importing time zone, we're importing the user. Remember, Django comes with a default authentication system and a user system, right? So we're going into Django contrib.models and we're importing this user class. So now to define our model called post, since we're building a blog application, if you're building an e-commerce application, typically this might be product, right? But now in this case, this is a post, right? So in this class, we're defining a class called post, and then we are inheriting or we are extending the Django's models.model. Django has a class that they've defined called model. So we are inheriting from that Django model, right, to create our own model called post. So typically what you have inside this model is just your individual fields that you want to be recorded in your database table. So we're defining title, author, body, the publish date, and the created date. And then we are also using models of character field to define, so to say, we're using this essentially to tell Django that the title variable here is going to have a field or the character field essentially, because Django has this thing defined for us built in. And then the author is going to be models of foreign key to a user. So models can have relationships between themselves. One of the relationship is a many-to-one relationship. That is to say that a post has an author, right? So an author can have many posts, but a post cannot have many authors. So in this case, this is a many-to-one relationship. That's why we're using the foreign key method, to say that this post has an author and the author is a user. So there's a relationship between the post model and the user model. That's why we're imputing the user here. And then this onDelete is simply saying once you delete the user, simply delete all the posts associated to that user. That's what this onDelete is doing here as an argument. Then we have related names. So moving next, we have the body, which is a text field. They're simply saying the body variable should have, or attribute, sorry, the body attribute should have a text field in the database, while the title attribute should have a character field in the database table. Then the publish is going to have a date field, in the database. Created, you also have a date field in database. All of these things are just a way of defining the current date and time as at the time any post is going to be created. Next, so now we have all of the attributes defined. These attributes are simply fields in the database, and then the type of fields in the database. One, we have the character field, the foreign key that talks about the relationship between the post and the author. Then we have the text field and datetime field, essentially. So now the meta class is where you define certain behaviors of your model. In this case, we are only saying that the post should be ordered according to the time they've been published. So the latest blog post that was created will be on top of the list instead of the first. So it's just simply ordering it in a way that the latest blog post that was created will come first when you're listing the blog post. You can see that you can see the third post is the first one. So that is what that line of code is doing. Now we have this special function called underscore string underscore self. So what this function is doing essentially is just to return a string representation of the post object using its title. If we don't define this function here, by the time we view our post in the database table, we won't be able to read it well. I'll show us an example once we create a model. I'll delete this function and then see how it looks. So we're trying to say that this function should return the post title whenever it's been listed in the database table. And then it should be something, the title should be readable. Without defining this string function, it will just list all of the blog posts as objects. So you can't read them as a string. So that's what this function is doing here, right? Then we have the second function that is get absolute URL. So this function is simply returning the URL of each individual post, especially the detailed view URL of each of the posts, because normally when you have the listings, when you click on each post, it's going to take you to a detail page. So this is the function that helps you handle the detail pages of each of those posts we have. PK means primary key, is referring to the primary key of each individual post, because Django helps us to it auto increments your keys, because every object in the database has its own ID or primary key. So Django creates that by default and auto increments them accordingly. So it's assigning the primary key of each post into this PK into this PK key here. Now, once we click each of those individual blocks, we will see that it will take us, this function will help to navigate and take us to the detail page. So as you can see, using the post detail URL pattern and passing the post primary key as a parameter. So it returns the canonical URL for a post detail view. So that's just essentially what this function is doing. So that's our code in a nutshell, right? And each time you define a model, you have to run migration so that this model defined would be created in the database, because now once we run migration, the post model will be read by Django and a database table will be created for us automatically with all of these fields. Now remember that when you're working with class object-oriented programming classes in Python, we said that classes have they are blueprints for each object, right? So this class will be defined as just a blueprint for how our blog post will look like in the database. And these functions here are just to help us handle the behavior of our post objects. For this particular one, it's just helping us to navigate to a detail page, while this is helping us to model, helping each individual objects to be readable, right, in a string format. So basically, that's what it is. So, and these things come by default. When you go to the Django documentation, you can actually find these things. You know, look at the feeds. They come built in with Django. Once you go into the documentation, you can actually see how each of these things work. So next, we're just going to run migration so that these tables will be created for us in the database. Then I'm also going to create a super user such that I can be able to log into the admin data dashboard to see my post, right? Yeah, so next, we're going to be creating and applying migration. Just explain that. I said, so now that we have a data model for blog posts, we need to create the corresponding database table, from the model we just defined. Django comes with a migration system that tracks the changes made to models and enable them to propagate the database, right? So we're just going to run two commands. First is python manage.py make migrations blog. The blog is essentially we're telling it to make the migration on this blog application. That's what we're doing. So let's move on. So let's go to our terminal. Stop the server. So python manage.py make migrations. Now, before I hit this command, let me show us something. If you come to the blog application, you can see this folder. This folder at this moment is empty. This is the migration folder that keeps track of initializing the migration and actually creating the table, because we have two commands here. First is to tell Django that we want to initialize the migration, right? Then the second migration command is what actually creates the database table. So that's what we're going to do now in our terminal. Once I hit enter, yes, we can now see that it has created for us. That's created for us model post. Then next, I'm going to do py Python manage.py create. Yes, it's running migration and then it has created a table for us in the database, right? So if I go back now, if I go back to the code, I'll see inside this folder, you can now see that it has created this file for us. This is actually for the database. So this is what the command does. It creates a table for us because you can see all the fields, ID, title, publish date. This is a representation of our database table inside our SQL database, right? That's what the command has helped us do successfully. Close these files. Now, next thing we're going to do is to create a super user, right? Creating an administration site for models. Now that the post model is in sync with the database, we can create a simple administration site to manage blog posts. Django comes with a built-in administrative interface, like we all know, that is very useful for editing content. The Django site is built dynamically by reading the model metadata and providing a production-ready interface for editing content. So one of the powerful things the Django admin does for us is essentially to create an interface for us to manage our content. So it just has this tabular record where you can edit and delete and pretty much managing your data. So, but before we can access that admin interface right now, to do that, we're going to do /admin to access that interface. But we wouldn't be able to log in. We're going to even get an error because the server is not running yet. So to actually do that, we're going to create a super user. So before we even log into the admin interface to see our post table. So the command is very simple. Python manage.py create super user. It's going to prompt us to put in our username and all of those credentials. So I'm going to simply put my information and then create a super user successfully. So let's follow along, see how that works. Once I hit create super user, now it's going to ask me for username. I'm going to use James. Email address, james@gmail.com. Password. Okay, awesome. Super user created successfully. Now I'm going to bootstrap my server, my dev server, to see the admin interface, log in and see what I have with the post table. So quickly run Python manage Python server. Okay, now my server is running. All I need to do is come here and refresh, take me to the admin interface. Yes, I have the admin interface now. As you can see, let me enter my username, James, password. Once I hit enter, it's going to take me to the admin interface. Now, I'm inside the admin interface. Very simple, easy to navigate. By default, it comes with the it has the users table by default, and then the groups level permission thing. So this is under the authentication application that is built in with Django. These are the models that comes built in, or the tables now inside this authentication app that Django provides for us. So now we've created our model, our post model, we're supposed to see it listed here as an app too, because we've added it to the settings the file. But there's one more thing we need to do. We need to let Django know that we want to add our model, our application, or our blog post table inside this admin. So it's very simple to do. Once you come down here into blog at admin.py, you need to copy this code and paste into the admin.py file. So once you do that, it's going to tell Django that this model, this post model needs to be added to this admin site. Right now, it's not added. So that piece of code, that block of code rather, would help us do that. So you go into the models, go to the blog application, come to your admin.py file. So now we are importing the admin from Django contrib, and then we are also importing our post model inside our models.py file. Now we need to register it in the admin. So you call this admin class.site.register method, admin.site.register method. So this method now accepts the post model as an argument. So once you paste it in, it should make our site visible, our post model rather visible in the administration site or in the admin interface. So once you do that, I'm going to refresh this interface now so that we can see, you can now see that our post is now showing here inside the blog application. So these things are applications. This is the authentication built in. This is the blog app that we just created. And inside, we have the post table, right? From the post model we defined. So if I define another model inside the model.py file, it's going to be listed here. And from what I have here, I can actually do so much with this. This is a lot. Most packages, like if you're working with Node.js, Node and Express, you have to use a third-party package to get something like this done. But this comes built in with Django, right? So now I just clicked on the post model or the post table. Right now we have 0 posts. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly add some blog posts. Remember I said the admin interface, you can manage your data, your data. Now we have this table called post. We can actually add data, remove data. So let me just add the blog post. So remember all the attributes we listed in the model, they are now being represented as a field. So each individual post will now become a record. But before then, you have all these various fields for you to update. Now, Django helps us automatically with the date and time, you know. Now, let me just add title. This is going to be very simple. First post. Sorry. Okay, so first post, author James, because right now I'm the only user in the system, I'm the super user. So if you have many other users in the system, going to list all the users you can select. So for the body of the text, I'm just going to use Lorem Ipsum text generator to just add some bunch of text inside the text field that doesn't look is just as placeholder text, right? I'm just going to copy and paste this. Now I have some text. Now that I have my text, I can save and add another one. So this will be a record in my post table with all of these fields. Yes, so I'll just save that. Now let me do another post, which is a second, okay, second post. Author is going to be still me, James. Is this body of text. And then simply good to go. Save. So for this case, we're just going to add 3 blog posts. Now I have the third post. Author is James. This is body of text. And once I hit save, this time around, I'm not gonna do save, I don't know that I'm just gonna do save. And yes, as you can see, it's now showing me the list of all the blog posts I have, first, second, third blog post. So cool. If I open the last one, which is the third post, you can now see that I have all the information here, right? So now you can delete and edit, create. All of those functionalities are here built in for us just to kind of manage our data, right? It's cool. So let me just resave this and go back to what we're doing. Plus, so now that we have our models, we've added 3 blog posts. The next thing we're going to be doing, talking about is URLs, views, and templates. We just discussed about the model, just created a post model, then we did the migration, the table has been created for us, and then we've added posts, right? Now, we are done with the data layer of our application. Next thing we're going to be looking at is the URLs, views, and templates. I don't know, for some reason, URLs was not captured in the MVT acronym, but URLs have also, they're very important. It's like the fourth component in the MVT architecture, because with URLs, I just feel it's the entry point for requests. If you're trying to run any program, you need a trigger for that program to run. Either if it is a function, you have to call the function for it to run. For those of us who are familiar with basic programming, something has to trigger the code. So the URL is just there listening to requests that comes from the users of your application. So a map is just a list of routes that maps to a particular function or class space view that responds to that request from the user. So it's just a list of URLs or paths that you can call. And then those paths will eventually, once you hit that path or that route, there are certain functions or class-based views that will respond to that path or that request from the client or the browser. And then the view will now handle that request and show you a template. Sometimes the view talks to the database. We'll see how that works. So right now we need to have the URLs of iFile. For some reason, if you look at a Django application, this blog application we just created, it has some bunch of files, like we just edited the models of iFile and the admin.py file, but we've not done anything with the view yet, which will come to that very soon. Very, very important file. Something is missing. We are missing the URLs of iFile because that is where you define all your URLs, your endpoints, that users can use to interact with all of your pages in your application. So we're going to come back to the terminal. I'm going to stop the server right now and create a URLs.py file inside the blog application. So I'm going to go into the blog application. Yes. Then I'm going to create a new file called URLs.py. Cool. That's been created for us. I'm going out of that's blog app. And then I'll run a server again. Now, if I come back, you notice we now have the URLs of iFile. So normally the way routing works is you first define the URLs in the blog project URLs. There are two places you have URLs. First is the blog project URLs of iFile. In this file, you can quickly, this is like majorly the entry point and of your application. Once you hit this, any request that hits these parts you define here will now eventually go and invoke individual application URLs. So you have the project level URLs of iFile, which is here, and then you have the application level. So the project level URLs of iFile and the application level URLs, very important. Now for the project application level URLs of iFile, this is the code. We're simply saying that the importing parts, and then we're importing something called the view. The view's name is blog list view, which we've not defined yet. And then we are now saying that when a request comes to the home page, the root of our application, the blog list view should be invoked. It's a class-based view, and that's what we're using as view function, right? We're attaching this as view function to it so that it's going to treat this class as a function, and then it's going to be invoked. So all the code we've defined inside the blog list view is going to be invoked once a request comes. And at the end of it, it's going to send a response, which typically is a HTML template. Let's just basically copy this code and paste it into our blog/URLs.py file. When I come here, it's empty at the moment, the file I created, and I'm going to paste this in, right, and save it. So like I said, once a request comes to the home page, but first, before this gets invoked, the blog.URLs.py file has to be the request to come here first before it's going to be routed to the blog URLs of file. So let me just write the code that works here. I'm going to call something called include. Once I call the include function, then I'm going to add the blog application URLs here. So I'll do path. So if I have a request to this home page, I'm going to include blogs dot URL. Yeah, so first I imported this include function, say that I want to include blogs.urls, that's this blog URLs file. So once a request comes to the home page, this function is going to invoke the URLs of all the URLs in the blog application, right? Blog.urls. So this is going to invoke all of these URLs that I defined here. So let's move on quickly. Save this code. Yeah, so this code I just wrote now is what's this line of code here on. So now we're going to move to our views. We're done with the URLs part of it. We need to create a view now. I'll explain what this view does. We need to create a view. Now that we've defined our URLs here, to say that when a request comes, first to the blog URLs of file, once to the project level, once a request comes, it hits, first of all, hits the project URL, then it's now going to be redirected to the application URL. Now, in this application URL, once a request hits it, it's going to look at a view. It's going to call a view, right? Now, we've not defined this view yet. So that's why you're seeing it this way. So let's go to the views of file, find a view that will be called by our URLs. So now we have defined a view. We looked at Django.views of generic, and then we imported something called list view. One of the advantages of Django, like we all know, it's a battery included framework, right? So Django, they've studied how web development works, and they know that there's a pattern, a consistent pattern. And one of the principles of Django is dry, don't repeat yourself. So they created these generic classes, that we can inherit from or we can extend from. One of those classes that Django created for us is the list view class. They have a lot of them. They have the detail view, the update view, and likes. So this list view, essentially what it does is it handles anything that has to do with listing items in our database, right? So we are essentially extending this list view that Django has created for us. So we defined our own class called blog list view. So from the name, you can tell that what this class is doing is just to handle the listings of our blog posts. That's why we called it blog list view. And this blog list view essentially is inheriting from Django's built-in list view that we imported here. And then we also imported our post model from our models of file because we will need it. We'll need it because we are listing our blog posts, right? So we'll need it. So in a class-based view, like what we're using, we have also something called function-based view, but we're not covering function-based view in this lesson. You can read that up. Most of our code is going to be captured with class-based view. So class-based view, essentially, they've simplified a lot of things for us. Remember the principle of abstraction. and inheritance we discussed in Python, in our Python lesson for week 2 when we were talking about classes. So that principle has been applied here such that all we need to do once we create our class called block list view that inherits from the list view, we just need to define our model and our template. The model is just to say, what are you listing? In this case, we are listing our post model. So this attribute model is going to refer to our post model that we just defined here. This post model, we imported it into our views.py, and then we have it here, right? Then the next attribute is going to be the templates we're trying to send to the user. So in this case, we created a templates directory. I'm going to explain how that works, and then we're sending it to the user. So that's essentially all we need to list our blog post. So when a request comes to the home page, this is the function or the view that responds to that. It sends a home.html page to the user with the listings of our blog posts. Essentially, that's what this code is doing here. So now that we have the models defined, we've structured this, we now have to import it into our URLs.py file in the blog application. And that's why now you can see it's properly highlighted because we defined what the blog list view is and what it does. So once a request now comes into the home page, this class-based view is going to be called. Now, if you notice, we did a dot as view function here just to say that since it's a class-based view, we are invoking it as a function. And then we are passing it a name. So this name attribute or name argument, essentially, what it does is in our template, we can reference this page as home in our HTML template when we're defining our URLs. If you want to click to it, you can just say, you can use this name to refer to the home page, right? Or to refer to this view that calls the home page template. So that's why we're having this name argument equals to home here. So pretty much that's for the URLs and the views. So the next thing we're going to look at is the template, because in this view, we are telling Django that we want to render a template called home.html inside a blog directory. So we need to handle that next. Yeah, so like I said, we subclass this view and add links to our model and template. This saves us a lot of code versus implementing it all from scratch. That's the idea of batteries included for Django. So now we're going to be looking at the templates, right? Templates are just essentially HTML code, but they are much more than HTML code because they also perform logic. You can list items, you can perform if-else condition statements using Django's templates tag. So I would say the HTML we are rendering is just Django templating an engine, right? Because it does more than just HTML template. You can write Django code inside the HTML. So if you're familiar with HTML, this would help a lot. But if you don't know what HTML is, I encourage you to read about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, how it works. The scope of this training doesn't capture that. So the template essentially just renders HTML in form of Django templating engine, right? So with our URLs and views now complete, we are only missing the third piece of the puzzle, which is the template. Like I said, we'll start by creating our new template directory and then create our base.html file as the parent template to be inherited by other child templates. After that, we'll create a blog directory inside the template directory to hold all of our blog app templates. So essentially what we're saying is the way Django template system works, or template engine works, is that you have to define where your templates are going to be stored, your HTML code. And typically, the way it works is you have to define a directory. You have to create a directory called templates so that Django knows that all your HTML code is going to look into the templates directly for all of your HTML code. And another convention is to create a base.html file that essentially, like, it's like the parent file that other HTML files inherit from. So this is like your globe where you define your global CSS, JavaScript code, like your headers and your footer. I discussed about base.html in the previous class. So it's convention that you create your base.html file so that other files can inherit from this file. So now we're going to create a templates directory. We're going to create a base.html file. We're going to, inside that template directory, make another directory called blog to store all the templates in our blog application so that everything will be structured accordingly. And then by the time we build, let's say we are adding another application, we'll create another folder also, let's say product. Inside that product directory in the template, we can have all the HTML responsible for that blog application. So this is just a way we can structure our websites, our code to make it easy to actually understand. Now, before we create this, we can actually create this, but Django needs to know where the directory is. So essentially, we just need this line of code in our settings.py file to tell Django that this is where we have our template, because Django wants to know either the templates directory is inside your root directory, does it share, does it live side by side with your Django project directory, or it's inside your Django application? Because you can actually add templates either inside a blog, an application, in this case, a blog application we're building. You can put the templates there, or you can put it outside the blog application in the root level directory. But to simplify things, I personally prefer us having the templates not inside the blog application, but outside of it. So we're going to tell Django that's where we're having it at the base directory, right? We'll have the templates there. So I'm going to add this piece of code inside our settings.py file in the project level. So close some of these files I have here. So if you come to the project, Django blog project, and you go to the settings.py file, down you notice that there is a directory here called templates here. So this is all the settings for our templates. Now we need to tell Django where this directory is at the root level. So if I just do this, oops, sorry. So yeah, basically that's how this is scheduled. So now we're telling Django that to look at the base directory / templates, which we're going to create very soon to handle the templating, right? So let's save this file, go back to the terminal. Now, okay, I'm going to stop this server so that I can create template directory. Templates. So it's created it. I'm going to go into the template directory to actually create the base.html file. Yes. So this file is like the parent HTML file that is being extended in the child HTML files. So now I'm going to create another directory called blog. This directory is going to house or hold all of our templates that handles the blog application, just for structuring sake, right? Now I have this. If I try to check my templates directory, you can now say I have the base.html and I have the blog directory. If I go into the blog directory now, I can now create my different HTML templates inside. So the first one I'm going to create for now is I'm going to create the home.html because in my views, I told Django that this file exists. So I'm going to create it ahead. Let's quickly check the terminal to see what we have, the VS Code rather. So if you come to a VS Code, and now see we have the templates directory, we have the base.html. At this point, it's still empty. Then we have the home.html inside the blog directory, which is also empty. So we're going to add some code inside all of these files. So let's start with the base directory. Let's update the base HTML template. So now what we have here is just some basic HTML boilerplate code. And then we are also linking to a styling, the Google fonts styling. They're also referring to Bootstrap for styling. Then we have this base.css, it's just a file that I'm supposed to define inside my static. So this is the boilerplate template. Every other HTML template is going to inherit from this. So now you have this navigation components here. Every page is going to inherit from this navigation. That's why any page you go, you're going to see all of these things. So let me just copy this HTML. So this is HTML, but it's also known as the Django templating engine because it has its own logic. For example, you can see this thing called load static. There are a lot of things that are here that are just beyond HTML that Django uses, you know. So if I come down here in my base.html, I'm going to paste this code. You can see, if you see something like this blog content, all these things are Django related stuff. Like this blog content now, what it does is you can see blog content and blog content. When I'm trying to create another HTML template, all the templates are going to be inside here dynamically so that they will inherit from this base. That's what this blog content does. Every other content I create, like for instance, if I create this home.html, once I start writing the HTML inside here, it's going to be plugged in here as in between this blog content, you know, so that it can inherit from this base.html file. Right. So having this file. So, so this is Django wall. This is comment this one. So Django, I don't think this is going to work. Getting a weird error. This is next is the home.html file. So like I said, note that the code between the blog content and the end blog content can be filled by other templates. Speaking of which, here's the code for the HTML. So I'm going to copy this for the home.html. I'll explain some of the things here in these templates. So in the home.html, I'm going to paste this. Now, you can see that this home.html is actually inheriting from the base.html, this file. You can see this home.html, you see extends with this tag, this curly braces percentage extend base.html means that this home.html has to extend, has to inherit from the base so that the styles will be global, right? Then remember I spoke about this block content here, this block content. This is it. It means that everything inside our home.html, you can see it inside a block content. You see, inside a block content. This is how Django knows that all the code here have to be inside here, that everything will work properly. Now, we now have this logic. This is where Django shines. This is how we can list the blog post. We have a tag, curly braces, percentage, and then we said this is like a loop. We're trying to get data from the model. The data is now saying for every post data in post lists, right? This is possible because we've defined this mode in our models, in our views.py, we've told this view that we're using this post model. So it automatically knows that we're trying to list these items in this post table because as you can see, this is a list view. So somehow Django does its magic behind the under the hood, and we can now use this syntax to say for every post in the post list, give us this data. So this will go through the database and pull out all the records and list them in this template. So it's going to say that this post now represents the individual post. Inside this individual record of post, I need the post title. The tag has changed from curly braces percentage to double curly braces. This is when you're trying to pull out a variable. This is the syntax, but this syntax is for the loop, right? So we are pulling out the title, we are pulling out the published date, we're pulling out the author, and then we are pulling out the body of the text. All the records in the fields in each record is what we're pulling out from the database. And then we use this end for to end this loop, right? If you don't add this end for, it's going to throw an error, right? So by the time we run this code, this syntax, this is just a list, a HTML, bunch of HTML elements, and then we are passing those data dynamically inside this HTML element. So that is how this thing works in using a class-based view. So I'm going to save this file and try to run the server to make sure I don't have an error. So I'm seeing this weird error sign here in this base.html, but really not sure where it's coming from. So, okay, let me quickly, before I run the server, let me quickly do a settings for the static file. Similar to the templates folder, we need to also define a static template. So this static template essentially, unlike for the templates that house your Django templating, such as your HTML, this static directory does not really hold HTML code. This static directory simply holds your CSS and your JavaScript files, including your images. Basically, all those assets that do not change over time. Most times, your CSS do not change regularly, your JavaScript doesn't change regularly, and then your images too. All these things are static assets. They are bundled inside a static directory. So you have to tell Django that if you're working with some static assets, you have to tell Django, I'm working with some static assets and I've defined them in a directory. So called static. That is the standard. Django wants us to define all our CSS, JavaScript, and images and fonts inside a static folder. Why for HTML templates? Django wants us to define them in a templates directory. So essentially, that's what we are doing at the moment. So I'm going to quickly, just for demo purposes, not that we're writing any CSS code in here, but I'm just quickly going to make a directory called static, make another directory called CSS, and create a base.css file. Then I'm also going to copy these settings to tell Django that this is our static URL, and this is the directory where you can have our static files, just like the settings we did for templates to tell Django where template is. So I'm going to copy this bunch of code, and then I'll come down to the terminal, and let me change directory to the root of my project. Okay. Now, just like we have, these are the folders and files in my project. You can see we have the blog application, the Django project level folder. Then we have the templates that are just created. The next thing is I'm going to create another directory or template called static, where we can add all our static files. Right? So I just created that. I'm going to go into the static directory. Then I'm going to, typically what you can do here, the idea is to create a maybe CSS directory, and maybe JavaScript or JS, and then maybe another one for the images, right? So if you check the things here, you can now see that inside the static directory, I have CSS images. So this is where you can define all your assets. Let me just go into the CSS directory and create a file called, let's say, base.css. There you can define all your styles. I just did that and see I have that. So this is just for demo purposes. By the time you're building a more complicated software or application, typically you would need to install a theme in your Django project. By the time you have that theme, you can extract all the CSS, JavaScript images inside the static directory. You just copy them and paste them inside the static directory. That's how you install a theme in your Django project. And that's why I'm taking time to show us how this works. So now I'm going to update my settings of file to capture. So you can now see we have the static directory with all these folders, right? Now I'm going to come to the project level directory to my settings, and I'm going to add, yes, just about here, the styles for the configuration for static. So this is it. I'm just saying that my static directory is located at the base directory and a folder called static. So that's what this configuration is saying. Very straightforward. Yeah, having done that, we now use the load static tab. I've gone ahead to add that for us. You come to your base.html. It's important that you use this tag, this load static tag, because you need it to load up things like your images, your fonts, and all of those assets, you need to use this load static tag, right? We don't have to define it here because this template is already inheriting from the base template, right? So yeah, that's how it works. So let's quickly move on. So now we've added our blog post, and then what I want us to do now is to quickly start our server so that we can see the listings of our blog post. Since we've defined the blog list view, we've added URLs, we've added the templates, and all the things we need. So let's quickly start our server and see if we can have that listed. And have the blog listings on our website. So let's just quickly start our server. I hope we don't have any errors. Okay, clean, no errors. So let's just go back. I'm just going to sign out of this admin interface. Yeah, I'm logged out. So let me navigate to the home page. Yes, you can now see that we have all our blog posts listed. Pretty cool, right? So this is third post, this is the second post, this is the first post. Now, this functionality is just for the listings, right? That's what we did. Now, if I click on this, it won't take me anywhere because I've not defined the detail page. I've not defined the URLs, the views, and the templates to actually take me to the detail page of each of these posts. So none of these things will work right now. So what we just have is just the listings of the blog post with the title, the author, and the body, and the publish date. Okay. So next, we are going to implement the detail page for this blog application, and then we take it up from there, right? Okay, so now that we've created our blog listing page over here, you can see the list of our blog posts. Now time for us to, like I said, when you click on each of these posts, it's not taking you to the individual detail page, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at next. So to create a detail blog, very simple, right? We still have to follow the same view, URL, and templates pattern, nothing new. So to add the functionality for individual blog pages called detail view, we need to, like I said, create a new view to handle that, a new URL and a new template, right? So it's pretty much straightforward. Now, in our views.py file, all we need to do is to import first the detail view class that has been created for us by Django. So once we import that, we now have to extend it, so that we can make use of the functionality that has been defined inside that detail view class. So we'll create our own blog detail view and then subclass or inherit from the Django built-in detail view. And as usual, all we need to do is just add our post model and then the name of the template. Is that straightforward? So I'm going to copy this block of code into my blog views.py file and then implement as we move on. So if I come to my blog application, go to my views.py file, here we already imported this view. So in addition to that, I'm going to import the detail view, right? Then I'm simply going to create another class called blog detail view, and then inherit from the detail view we just imported, define our model, and then our templates. So now we already created home.html template. We're going to create another template called postdetail.html inside our blog directory, right? So let me quickly create that template. I'm going to come here and clear the console. Now I'm going to cd into templates and blog, right? Now inside this blog directory, I'm going to make a new file called post underscore detail. The name has to be correct, or you get an error. But HTML, yes, now I have it created. Let me just go out of this. Okay, yes, let's move on. So inside the post detail.html file, so copy and paste this code and do the template of the detail page. So I come down to templates, blog, posts, detail.html. I'm just going to paste this code. So in this case, we are also extending the base template. And inside the blog content, we are having this code. So these are just bunch of, this is the HTML section. In this section, I'm just saying that I need to impute the post title, post author, and the publish and the body, similar to what we have in the listings, right? But the design is going to be different. The styling is going to be different. Then inside these templates, subsequently, we are going to be adding more functionalities. Like, for instance, you want to delete this post. You typically do that inside the post detail. You want to probably edit this post. You're going to do it inside this template, right? So let's quickly move on to the next step. So go to the URLs. In the URLs of file in the blog application, we are simply going to import that blog detail view we created in the detail in the views file, and then we're going to import it inside the URLs of file, and then passing a path. Using the path function, we're going to pass in this following argument. The first one is the string to the URL. Remember the first blog list view, if you make a request to the home page, it's going to take you to the blog list view, right? In this case, we are not going to the home page. We are going to the post/pk. So this pk simply means the ID of a particular post. So once we go to this route, once we click on any blog post, it's going to take us to the post slash the ID of that particular post. Once we hit it, then the detail view will respond as view and then render us the detail page template. So I'm just going to copy this line. So Let me go to the blog URLs. Yeah. So now I have this. It doesn't know about this blog detail view, so I have to import it from the views.py, right? So now it knows about the blog detail view created in the views.py file. Now, any request that comes to this route, post/ID, maybe ID could be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the ID of any particular post is. Once it hits this endpoint or route, then the blog detail view is going to be invoked and then render our templates, right? So the last thing, we'll define our URLs, we'll define our templates, define our view. I think pretty much we're done with this. So to make our life easier, we should update the link on the homepage so we can directly access individual blog posts from there. So now, yes, this makes sense. If we go to the listing page, we have to find a way to link to the particular detail page. So let's copy this. Let's copy this code. This code essentially is the link to the detail page. At the moment, if you click on any post, it's not really taking you anywhere. But once we add that link now and then we make a click, it's going to take us to the detail page. So that's what this URL is doing here. That's what this link is doing here. And this is how Django defines your linking. When you're trying to navigate to a page, it uses this URL function and then passes a string to it with the name of the URL you're trying to go to, right? So that's how Django handles it. Now let's quickly update that code. I'm going to go into my templates, home.html file. So right here where you see this anchor tag that has a href link, I'm just going to update it. So I'll clean this and add that Django link to that anchor tag. So once I save and I refresh, so I'll start the server again. I'll start the server and go run server. So pretty much that's how you define your detail page. Very straightforward. If I come here and I do post /1, for instance, just watch. You see, that's taking me to the detail page of the first post. Now, you don't need to be entering the path in the browser. That was why we had to update the link tag in the home.html page. So now you can see we are at the detail page, and this is the template for the detail page, showing us the post body, the author, the published date, and the post. When I go back now and click each of these posts now, let's say, okay, it's not working. Let me see if I save my template. Yep. Template is saved. Check the it should work, but let me refresh it. Yeah, it's not working, right? So I go back to the second post. Yes, you can now see that the link is working. So now we've successfully implemented our listing page. So now we have listed the blog post, and then we can also go to the detail page for each blog post, right? So we're making progress. Next thing we're going to be doing is testing our application, and then we're also going to be talking about forms. So for Django forms, it's very important because sometimes we might not want to go to the admin interface to the backend like this to typically go and update a form, right? We will not want to do that sometimes. So we need a way to update this blog post, create new blog posts from the front end. So for some applications, you would need your users to kind of create, fill a form, delete a record, manage their data at some point. So that's why we need to create, learn about forms and create a full CRUD application. But some other applications would not require you to do that. You might just come here and manage your data. So for the blog post, typically you might just come here to the admin interface and create blog posts, delete blog posts. If you don't want users to manage that record or that data, you can just come here and do all of those stuff. But in our case, we want users to be able to create, delete, and update blog posts. So that's why we are now implementing forms and all of those things that will allow us to do that. And similarly, when you're building an application and you want users to manage records and all of that, you will need this feature we're trying to create right now. So the next thing we're going to do now is just to test our application. Right? So I have some tests written here. This test, first, just explain what it does. I'm importing test case. Django comes with a test.py file. So with this test, I'm creating a fake data. I'm trying to create a fake user called, I'm using the get user model method objects of create a user. I created a fake user called test user with fake email and password, right? Also, I created a fake blog post known as blog with the title, and then the body of this is the blog, right? And then the author as this fake author user I created. So this is just a setup. This first function is just to set up my fake user and my fake data, my fake record, my post record, fake post record, and fake user. That's what this first function is doing here. Now that I've created my data for testing, I can call each of these functions and to check if I have a record, a title of the blog post called blog, and then a body called this is the blog, and then a user. So basically, this test is just to test all of this data that I've created here. So it works, it's going to work in real time because I know that if I can create this data, this fake information, and then test it, it means that all my code is working properly, right? So I'm going to copy this and then paste it in the test.py file in my blog application. I think I need to close some of this file. So if I come to my blog application, you'll notice a file here known as so you'll notice a file here known as test.py, right? So I'm going to delete all of these and paste this here and save. Next is to run the command to test this blog application, but before, and then we now initialize with GitHub. So let me just run the test this application. I come here and stop the server. The command is simple, just do Python manage dot py test. Okay, fine. So our test just ran, said run 5 tests, and it's okay, destroying test database for alias report. So our test has been run successfully. This is how you test a Django application, right? So first, there are different ways to test. You can, in the last class, we did testing for static pages. But in this case, what we tested was our models and our users. So here, this last function is testing the detail page. This is testing the list view page. This is checking to see if the URL is correct. These two functions, and then this is testing the post model, right? And this is just to create a fake user and a fake data. So that's what all of these functions are doing. So next is we need to make this project a Git, initialize it with Git, and then push it to GitHub. So I've already opened my GitHub. I've already have my GitHub here. I already have my GitHub open here. So now I'm going to initialize this project. I'm going to initialize it as a GitHub um, repository. As a Git repository, I'm going to initialize it as a Git repository and then connect it to GitHub, push it to a remote to a remote repository on GitHub. So I just noticed that while I was um, so I just noticed that while I was explaining, my seems as if my screen was not, I wasn't sharing my screen for some reason. I think I paused it for some reason. So I'll just quickly go back here, run the previous test I ran. Okay, before then, let me quickly show you guys the code. I said this is the test.py file where I added all of the tests. And let me run the server. I run this server now. We can actually see that here we have our listings of our blog posts. If you click each individual post, now you now have the detailed pages of the post, right? Click the first one, you have the detailed pages of each of those posts. You can go back. Now, we ran the test, right? I pasted this code in the test.ipy in our blog application, and then I tested to see that our code is working properly as expected. Normally, you should run tests for everything you're doing in your application. You can test your static pages, you can test your models, pretty much anything that has to do with your Django application. So I ran this test and test passed, found 5 tests, creating test database. So ran five, found five, ran five, and then it's okay. So it is showing the data, the fake data I created. So this is how to run your test in your Django project. So this function, like I said, is what creates the fake data, while each of these functions are just trying to test the post view, the detail view, the models, and some URLs, right? So now I'm just going to initialize this project as a Git repository, right? So it's very simple. You just do Git init tree. So next status and Git add, then Git commit, Git status, Git add, and Git commit, right? So I have, it has just listed for me some of my files and folder, but I wouldn't want to, I want to ignore the database, the DBSQLite, and then my virtual environment. So there's a file called, there's something called git ignore file. So I'm going to look for it. First, let me create a git ignore file in my project. I don't want my database to be sent to GitHub, right? So I'm going to create a new file here, and then to tell Git that these are the list of files and directories I want you to ignore. So I have my git ignore file now. So I can decide to say, okay, what's the name of my virtual environment? Like the name of my virtual environment is blog app. So I can tell Django to, sorry, I can tell Git to ignore everything inside this blog app. Also, if let's say I have a .env file, or I want to, also I want to ignore my db.sqlite 3, my database. So these are the files and directories I want to ignore. So this blog app is my virtual environment. All the installations I made, I would actually want to ignore them, right? So, and then my database also I want to ignore. So I'm going to save this, then Git will automatically ignore this. So let me do Git status to see if yes, as you can see now that I ran Git status, it has ignored my DB SQLite. You see it's no longer listed here, and then it's also going to ignore my virtual environment. So now, one last thing, I'm going to pip freeze. There's a command I'm going to run to kind of like show all of my dependencies, right? So that if somebody is cloning my project on GitHub, you can actually do some of those installations, right? You can do some of those. You can install. You can just do pip install and then install all my dependencies for my project on your own local machine. So I don't have to, since I'm not since I just ignored the virtual environment, it means that I have to tell whoever is going to be using my project to install some requirements that doesn't come with the project. So the git ignore file has ignored my virtual environment that where all my installations are. So I'm going to create a pip requirements file to say that these are the list of packages you need to install when you're trying to start this project I just created. So I'll just do pip freeze requirements requirements.txt, right? So this will create a file for me with all of my dependencies, my project dependencies. Yes, so you can see the file here. It hasn't added the dependencies yet, but it has created the file. Just wait, okay, then check back. Yes, so now these are all my requirements for now. So each time I install another package, I'll have to run the pip freeze command so that pip goes, checks all my requirements and add them here. That way, if another user is trying to start my project, they can just pip install all these requirements on their own local machine. So essentially, that's how it works. So let's move on. Now I'm going to do git status. You can see now my requirements of TXT have been added, my git ignore has been added, my virtual environment ignored, my database ignored. Cool. So now I'm going to continue by doing git add dot. So this will add. So if I do git status again, so if I do git commit, -m initial commit. I'm trying to commit this. So I've just now this is now a git repository, a status. So on branch master, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So any change I make my project now, it's going to track those changes, and then I can now continue to add, commit, the same workflow, add, check status, commit, and updates. Now, I would like to push this. Okay, for now, let's just suspend the idea of pushing this to GitHub for now. Let's just keep developing, right? I'll push to GitHub later. So next, we're going to be talking about Django forms. Since we said we're creating a C.R.U.D application where we create our data, we read, we update, we delete. So we continue to develop our Django blog application. We have learned how to implement a blog listings and detail pages. We've done testing and then initialize with GitHub. Next, we'll add forms for creating and editing models in the front end. So essentially, that's why we're doing this. We need to be able to make edits in the front end, right, for users to actually do these things without us going to the Django admin dashboard to create models. Remember, we created the first 3 post models, right? We like to do them on at the front end. So we don't have to use the Django admin at all for these changes. So Django comes with powerful built-in forms that abstract away much of the difficulty for us. Django also comes with generic editing views for common tasks like displaying, creating, updating, or deleting a form, right? So we've done the list view and the detail view. There are other views that Django comes with. One of it is the create view, which helps us with our form creation. We're going to look into that step by step. So steps to creating a form in Django using the create view class. Creating a form in Django is very simple. It follows the same URLs, views, and template approach we have learned so far. The steps are listed below. First, we create and add a new URL to the list of URL pattern variable in blocks.url file to handle the form creation request from a user with the given name to be used in the template, right? Then we create our view by importing and inheriting from a new generic class called create view to handle the form creation process. Then lastly is to create our template called post new HTML in the text editor and also update the base file to capture the form link. So essentially, in summary, there are 4 steps we need to take to create our form. First, for you to create a form, you should have a way to let the users know that, look, you can create a form. Maybe here in the navigation, there has to be like a link to say create a form, like create post, for example. So that create post link will now take you to the form, right, where you can create the post. So we need a link here. So to add that link, that's why we said we're essentially going to be adding URL to the list of URL patterns. So now for the blog URLs of file, there are only 2 parts or 2 links we have, the home page and the detail page. So now we're going to add the 3rd one. This route is going to help us to create the form. And it's going to invoke a blog create view, right? With the post name new. This name post new is what we need for our template routing. So I'm going to copy this, paste it to the blog URLs of IFR, right? I'm going to copy it. If I come to this place, I'm just going to add it above what we've defined before. So now it's looking for this view, it can't find it because we've not created it. So add this here. So this view is going to respond to a request that comes to this post/new, right? This view is going to respond to it. So let's quickly create the view now. If I come down to my views for file, right? So I need to import the create view, but you're not going to get it at this views.generic. You're going to use generic.edit to import the create view. So we're going to use the create view, we're going to use the update view, and then we're going to use the list view, right? We're going to use all of these views. So it's better we just import them already and keep. So now I'm going to define another um, class known as block create view, block create view, and it's going to inherit from the create view I just imported, right? So now one of the things I need to add here first is um, the form, the form class. So there are three attributes we need to add in the view. Okay, sorry, not the form class. There's a place where we're going to do that. But for now, for the view, we're just going to continue with the templates we're using and then the fields, right? We're going to continue with the templates, the model, and then the fields. These are the things we are going to be using. So I'm just going to delete this and paste this. So we're still using the post model to create the form. Now for the field, you can decide to choose the fields you want the user to see in the process of creating the form. Remember, we have publish date and create date because Django helps us create those dates fields. We really do not need to add them here. But in a situation where you want the user to see all the fields, you can just add all the lists of the fields here. Then the template you want the user to see is this blog slash post new.html. So let me quickly come here and create that on that template. Yeah, I've just created that now. Let's quickly move on. Now we're going to paste this code inside that template to handle the form creation. So now we have this template extending base as usual. Then inside the block content, we now have our form. So this is the form we're using. Now, the form has a method called post because actually we're making a post request to save the data. Then this C.R.U.D token handles security. And it just a way of encrypting your form data so that it's going to be secured when it's being sent to the server. Then form aspire, this tag is what is responsible for actually loading the feeds in your model, right? So this can work as it is. So let's move on. So yeah, we need to update the base.html. So let's go to the base.html now. We come to the base. Like we said, we need to have a way that users can click. In this is what we are going to be commenting, this part of the code, so that users can be able to click this link. Remember, we are getting this post new from here. This is where we are getting that name post new from this name. That's where we're getting the post new from in this base.html. So we call the URL function and pass it the string post new so that once a user clicks this link, it's going to send a request to this URL route and then invoke the block create. So we're going to move on quickly. Let me just run the server so that we can see if So you can see that our server is running. Let's quickly check our app. Let me refresh to see if I can find the link here now. Okay, I'm getting a template syntax error here. All right. So it's here telling me that there's a syntax error. Let me just do the update, okay, and see where the error is. Yeah, let's refresh. Fine. So I'm supposed to see the link here. For some reason it's not showing. Check again. Okay, so because I zoomed my screen, it's not showing. But let me just zoom out. You see, now that I zoom out, you can see the link now. But if I click on the link now um, to create a post, you can now see it has taken me to the page where I need to create a post. So, but this form is looking ugly. So I'm going to install a package that will make our form look prettier than what it is. So now if I click on this, right where you can see our link, right? So let's go back to the home page, stop the server and do some installations so that our form will look better than what it is at the moment. See, it's ugly. So go back. So now there's a package called Django Cryptsy Form. So this package helps you with um, improving your forms, your Django forms generally. So in order to make our form, in order to make our form look pretty and easy to style, we rely on two third-party packages, Django Cryptsy Forms and Bootstrap Templates Pack. So in the terminal, run the following command. So cool. We're going to stop the server and then run the following command just to install those packages. I'm going to exit the server. Run the command, first command, and copy this, run the second one. So once we have those things installed, we need to add them. Remember, each time we install with an app, or whenever we create our own app locally, we need to add it to the installed app. This is the first app we created called Blog, which is our local app. These ones are the third-party apps we're just trying to install now. So we need to add them to the installed app because they are also apps in themselves. So we go. Now I've done the first installation. Let me install the second one, which is Django, which is Cryptsy Bootstrap. Maxify Bootstrap. So trying to install, done. So now the next step is to add these two packages inside our installed app, our project settings of Python, right? So just come down to project settings of Py, go to install the app at the top. Yes. Now we can add these third-party packages. Take note of the format, right? Yeah, good. So now that we have them added to our installed app, okay, at the bottom of the settings of Python, we need to add these two lines as well. So copy this and add to our settings of Python. So these are just configuration settings to make these packages work. If you go through their documentation, you see all the instructions. We don't need to worry about how they work under the hood, but we just need to add them to our settings of Python to benefit from the functionality they have to offer. Okay, so now in our post_new.html template, we can quickly use scripty forms to make things look prettier. Initially, we have if you come to the post new HTML file, we're going to change this form as new to the Django crispy forms so that it looks better. And then we're also going to load it, the crispy form inside this template. So it's just two things we are doing now. We'll copy this tag to load the crispy form inside our template. Yeah. Then secondly, we'll change the form to this form crispy tag. That's all we're doing. And now it's just form dot as p. Just change it to form/crispy. That's all. By the time we start the server and see what we have now, how the new form looks. Then next we'll look at how to update our view, like for instance, making edits to our form, right? So now if I come here, go to new post, you see now our form is looking prettier. If I zoom out, you can now see that the form is looking prettier now. So let me create, I think I have 3 blog posts right now, right? Let me create a new blog post so that we can test the functionality. Now I'm going to call this hot post. Then author will be me, the solo one author at the moment. And I can say this is the hot post. Now, save this, it's going to be added to the list of posts. So we now have our hot post and the author and then the body and then the time I created this post. So if I come to the home page, you can now see that our hot post has been listed here. You can see that our hot post has been listed. So if I click on the post, you can see showing me the detailed view of the post. So this is how you create records in your database. So this is also how you create products, whatever you want to create, and then you want the front end to have the functionality instead of the Django admin. So this functionality is similar to what we have with the Django admin, where we created 3 individual posts at the initial stage when we set up the model. a similar feature, but now at the front end. Okay. So now we're going to implement the edits. We're supposed to have a way to edit this blog post and then also delete individual blog posts. So that's the next thing we're going to be implementing now. So that also is pretty much straightforward. So to update the view, the process for creating an update form so users can edit blog posts is similar to creating the view, like I said. So we'll again use a built-in Django class-based generic view called update view and create the requisite template URL and view, right? So each time we're working with this functionality, we just have to create a URL, templates, and view. These three things are very, very important. Since we've already defined our model from the beginning, and we are still working with that model data. So we're just iterating the process of views, templates, and URLs, just repeating the same pattern on the model that we've defined already. So to start, let's add a new link to the post detail.html so that the options to edit the blog post can appear for individual posts. So now we have this post. If I click on the third post, it's taking me here. I want to be able to edit this post in this detail page. I don't want it to be somewhere else. It has to be here, right? I want to delete here. I want to edit it because I'm dealing with a single instance of the post records, right? So I have to find a way to add a link first, the URL parameter here, and then that we call the view and render the template. The view will then render the template. So to do that, I'm just going to come here, add this add this line of code, right? So add this line of code, but from what I'm seeing here, so now we need to create, for the post detail page, we already have the files. We already have it here. So we need to update it so that somebody can click, like I said, here to edit a post. The user can click to edit a post. So to do that, we're going to come to that, add this line of code, this line of code, just to allow users to edit in the post detail. So I'm going to come now, go to the template for the post detail page. And right now I have this section. So where I want to add this editing is somewhere at the top after the header. So let me do that. Come to the title, right? Just want to come to the title and do this, right? Just want to do this, and just to be sure, let me add another tab, break tab. So this is what I want to do here. Then I'll still check if it doesn't align well anyway. So I'm going to come to, now the next thing I'm going to do is to create a template called post edit. This is where we now edit the actual form. So once a user clicks on the link to edit, to take it to a form, right? So let's quickly create the form. The name of the template is going to be post edit.html, right? So come here, create inside the blog directory, create a new template, Sorry. So we created a new template called postedit.html. Now we're going to populate the content of the form with this piece of code here. Now go back. So this is the form that does the editing of the individual blog posts, right? I'm going to save this form and continue. We've not defined the URL and then we've not defined the view yet. So if I come here, yes. So let's quickly create a view. Now Django does not bother about the approach. You can decide to create your view before your URLs. You can decide to create your URLs before your views or your templates. It doesn't matter so long as you know what you're doing. So I'm going to add this our custom class called blog update view that inherits from this update view. I'm passing the model and then passing the template and then the fields I would want the user to edit. We've created this template already, right? Just to pass in the fields and the post inside the custom class that we defined. More importantly, these classes that we are defining, they just have to inherit from Django's built-in view for classes so that these functionalities will work. If we don't inherit from this update view, we can't just define all these attributes and then they just work. So they are working because we have to inherit the functionality of this update view class that has been defined by Django. So that's the principle of inheritance in forms and then abstraction. So let's take note of that. Now I'll go to my views, blog views with py file and add, I think yes, I've added the update view we're using. I'm going to add that. Then I've added the form. Next is to map our URLs. Same pattern, go to URLs, and then we think we need a route that does post/edit. Have the code here. Yes. Path edits, right? On here, paste that. Now let me update the view. We need this blog update view. We need to import it into this URL. Yes, I think now we have everything in place. So let's quickly, server is running. Let's check. Let me refresh this page. Yes, you can now see that we have the edit blog post button now. If I click this, oops, this page, okay, it says it doesn't know what Cripsy is. I have to load the Cripsy tab. So that's why it's giving me an error. So let's come here. Let me copy the under template blog new. So I need this Cripsy form tab inside of my post edit so that it knows what it means. So yeah, working well now. But if you look at the create blog post, you can see that everything is centered. While if you come to edit blog post, it's not centered. So let's just quickly work on that. So Let's just move on. It just has something to do with um, styling. Yeah. So we're done with the create and edit. So let's finish up and by adding the delete view, and then we'll push the code to GitHub, possibly. So the process for creating a form to delete, before I continue, let's actually edit this post so that we see that it's working. I edit blog post. Here I can add this going on. And do this blog post has been edited for your perusal. I don't just update this. You can see this blog post has been edited for. So update works perfectly. So let's go back to home now. You see that our blog is also displayed. We've now been able to create a blog post using this form, and then we've also been able to edit a blog post using this link here. So quickly, let's just tidy up with the delete view. Let's handle the deletes. We'll use yet another generate base view called delete view and then create the necessary view URL and template. The same pattern. We always create our view to handle it, the URLs to make the request, and then the template to render. The same pattern. So I'm just going to create a view post detail HTML template. Then once I do that, I can now okay. Okay, this is first update, let's add this part to our post detail.html. So if I come to my post detail page, right? Again, these are HTML versus Django tags. Nothing serious. Let me see. I change. I need to see. Yes, I'm going to get an error because I've not defined the view to handle this URL. So what I did here is I'm saying that when you click this link, a view should respond, but we've not defined any of those things yet. That's why we're getting this error from here. So let's move on quickly. Then create a new file for the delete page template. So we'll create the post delete.html. I'm not sure if I've done that. No, I'm not. So I like it. So I'm trying to create a file, a HTML template for inside this template blog. Yes, post delete.html file. So this is going to handle the deletes, and it's simple. Just going to warn the user. That's all. Django will take over from there. So we just did that. Next is to create the URLs and the views. So yes, under the views, we need to add this block of code to handle the delete view when the request comes. So now go to the blog application under views. Let's add the fourth class, or the fifth class rather. So this blog delete view will handle the delete requests. And here we need to import something else called reverse lazy. Yeah. Then once we have that, we update our URLs, capture the requests. So come here, we'll come to our URLs of file. So this is where we'll capture the request and the request come into the application. So I'm going to create this, import this view from the view file, another pattern, come here. So now that I imported this blog delete view, I'm calling this part post slash ID of the post slash delete. So this route would invoke the blog delete function. So all of these routes are essentially invoking the views to render the template, perform the operation and render the template. So if I refresh now, I think this error should disappear because I've defined the views. Okay, server, I think my server is trying to boot up. So now I have edit and the delete. So if I come to delete, it's going to tell me to confirm. Once I hit yes, you see the fourth post has been deleted. Then I can create to go back home, go to the third post and edit it. See, update. Then I can delete it as I wish. So that's how it works. If now I'm going to just commit my project to Git and then we move to the next part. So let me just shut down this server and I've seen how C.R.U.D works, create, read, delete, and update. So I'm going to do git status, check my file changes, and see all the things that I've added or modified in my directory. So Git is actually tracking. Then I can do git add all. Okay, staged, function staged. Then I can do git commit. So now, in this commit, I'm going to say this updated C.R.U.D. working directory. I'm still not going to deploy now, but my codes are being trapped. Now, the last part is the authentication part. So we've seen the listings, we've seen how to delete. The server is down. So the next part is the authentication part of the project. Okay, next we're going to be looking at Django authentication system. If you recall in the beginning of the class, I said that Django comes with a built-in authentication system. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this session. And then also going to try to look at how it works and do a basic implementation of the authentication provided for us by Django. So so far we built a working blog application with a full CRUD functionality using forms. Then we're just missing a major piece of most web application. Every web application has user authentication systems, like every modern web application, various forms of authentication systems. So you can't really build a modern application in today's world without considering users, right? So a way to allow users access certain resources, getting their records into the database. So essentially, that's what authentication does in an application. Implementing proper user authentication is hard. There are many security issues along the way. So you really don't want to implement this yourself. And even in other libraries and even in other third-party web development frameworks, you typically do not need to implement authentication yourself. There are a lot of third-party packages that handles these things for you. All you just need to do is to plug into your application and understand how to make it work. So unfortunately for us, Django comes with a powerful built-in authentication system, like I said, which we're going to be exploring. So we can also customize this authentication system as needed. Whenever you create a new project, by default, Django installs the auth app, which provides us with a user object, right? So this user object that Django provides has the username, the password, email, first name, and last name. So these things are created inbuilt for us each time we create a Django project. Now we will use this user object to implement login, logout, sign up our blog application, right? Django provides us with a default view for a login page, login view. So all we need to do is to add a URL pattern for the health system, a login template, and a small update to our blog settings.i. So first, update the Django project's URL file. We'll place our login and logout pages at the account/URLs. This is a one-line addition. Essentially, what we're saying is that Django has this built-in authentication system, and then it has also gone ahead to create most of the views for us, like the login, logout, forget password view, all of those views that we typically need to write ourselves and then connect to a URL and then to a template. Django has all of those things defined already. So if we want to override all of those functionality, we can as well override and customize it. But the Django authentication system has come wired with all of those things. All we need to do is to plug the Django auth app into our URLs. So in your project URLs of pi, you just copy this part, this one line of code, and plug it in. By copying and pasting this slash, this account slash, include Django contrib, we're simply saying that we need the auth system into our application. We need Django to include it because it has already installed it for us. In fact, we used a version of it when we created the super user. So we need to plug it into our app officially so that we can go to any of these routes and pick in a particular view, either login, log out, or whatever we want to do. So I'm going to go into our project, into our blog project here. First, let me minimize the blog application. So come here, inside my settings, my URLs of pi file, I have defined two routes here. The admin, the admin slash, which is used to access the admin interface. Then the root URL. This is for all our blogs, blog mapping, right? So when you call this part, it invokes all the URLs in the blog.urls app. So next we're going to add is the accounts. So by adding this line of code, we've automatically plugged in the Django authentication system into our application. Next, we have to make a template. So inside the templates folder, we need to create another directory called registration. This is where Django looks for all of our templates. So let's make our login page by default. Django will look within a templates folder called registration for auth template. The login template is called login.html. So they've plugged the authentication for us using this part. They've defined our views and they've defined our URLs. All we need to do is to create the individual template. So now I'm going to create a template called registration and go into it and create this separate file. If I come to my terminal now I have the list of my directories. I can go into the templates directory. Now, I'm inside the templates directory. I'm going to create a folder inside this template, just the way I created a folder for blog, and then I had all my HTML files inside for the blog application inside the blog directory. Similarly, I'm going to create another directory known as registration. This is how Django knows that we want to call, we're dealing with the authentication system, essentially. I'm going to go into registration and create two files. One is login.html. The other one is signup.html. So I have these two files inside my registration folder, right? So let's move on. So I have the sign login and the signup.html inside my registration folder. Then we include the following code in the login. Just copy all of this code and add it inside the login. This is just essentially showing us a login form. That's what it's doing. So on to registration. Paste this. This is basically showing us a login form. It's also using this form PHP and loading the tag using CSR, looking at all of those things. Now, next is that we're going to create our logout button. Now, we add a logout button to the base file under the UL section. We will update the file using the following code. If you come to, I'm going to copy all of this code to update my base.html file. You come down to base.html file. There's a place where I'm going to update just immediately, just under this, my UL tag. I'm going to update this and add this bunch of code. Let me just arrange this template. Yes. So now what I just did was to allow for the links for login here and then log out, and then also links for creating blog posts. But the way and also you can also display who the user is. So that was the update I added for you to be able to display who the user is, link to the blog posts, login and log out, right? Sessions. So yes, essentially that's what this code is doing, but there's a logic to it. I'm trying to say that if there's a user, if a user is logged in, like authenticated, pull out the username from this user object dot username, get the username of the user, and then aside from that, you're going to allow the user to be able to create a new blog post, and also you're going to allow the user to log out, right? Because I'm logged in now, I should be able to log out. I should be able to create a new post, and my username is supposed to be displayed. That is if a user is logged in. But if the user is not logged in, all you can see is login, nothing more. Either you see login and sign up. So this is just what this piece of code is trying to explain. And these are just HTML plus Django tags, right? So that's that. Now, then update settings of I with our redirect link, login redirect and logout redirect. So if you go to our project settings of I, we need to add these two lines of code to tell Django where to redirect our users to. So for instance, let's say I log in by default, which page should I go to next? In a standard application, maybe I might just redirect a user to his or her dashboard page. Then when you log out you can take the person to the home page, right, of the application. So in our own case, we are taking everybody to the home page, whether you're logging in or you're logging out. That's what these two settings is doing. And this code is needed in the settings of I5. Come to the blog project, there's this settings of I5. So this is where we define the URLs to redirect, right? So next is the sign up. So Django doesn't come with a default sign up template for us. Why? Because we might want to customize how things work. We might want to say, okay, these are the fields we need for signing up a user. So what it comes with is the login, logout, things like password resets, password confirmation. It has default templates, views, and even URLs for us to do some of those things. It has it built in. But for sign up, we have to sort it out ourselves, right? Okay, so to begin, we have to create an app called accounts, our own account app, because what we're using at the moment here in these URLs of Pi5 is for Django. That's why we are seeing Django contribute. So we need to create our own app called accounts. In this our account app, we can now define how our sign-up process is going to look like. So we're going to stop the server now and run this command to create our own app. So we're creating the second app now in this project. Then after that, we'll install the app in the installed apps list, right? Then let's quickly do that. Let me change directory from this registration template. Yes, so now clear and run this Python manager file start app counts. So this will start another brand new app for me. Site app has been created for me alongside them. So now let me install this account app inside my settings so that Django knows that I have a new app called counts. So I'll add this here under local apps accounts. Now I have this account apps, right? Account app. So I need to add the URL to it as an entry point. That's the way I added for Django contrib. So come down here, do the same. If you come to URLs, just above the Django contrib app, add our own accounts. Just for us to be able to add our own sign-up, because Django doesn't come with it by default. After doing that, now we create a new file called account URL. As usual, we always create a URL file within text editor. So I'm going to come here and paste this code inside that account URL file. If we scroll, you can see that. First, let me close some of these pages I have here. Save some of them. So if you come to now inside this account, I need to create another file called urls.py and then paste this code. So now what I'm essentially doing is when a request comes to the account / path, it's going to be redirected to this app URL. So it's going to be account / sign up /. So once I call this sign up at this view will be invoked, but I've not defined the view yet. The next thing we'll do is to define this view in the views.py file. So now the views.py file will simply copy this bunch of codes with that explain shortly. Once we come down to accounts, views.py, remove this umbrella code. Then I have my code. Now this sign up view, what it simply does is it's inheriting from the normal create view we spoke about in the previous session. And then we imported something here called user creation form. This is an instance of the user form that Django comes with, the user creation model form. So what we're essentially saying is we are creating our own sign-up view because Django doesn't provide for us, and then we are inheriting from the create view in Django. But we're telling Django that the sign-up form it should send to the user. If you notice, for the blog, it was a post model we wanted Django to send to the user. But now, Django comes with user creation form. class. So that is what we are sending to the user so that the user can use this user creation form class to sign up. Then we're saying that when the sign up is successful, it should take the person back to the login page. I can change this to the home page to take it to the home page. But it makes sense if after signing up, you go to the login page so that you can be logged in. Then the template name is we're declaring that Django should send the sign up.html template. Now, in this template, you're simply going to have a form. What form are you going to have? This user creation form inside the sign up. Just the way you used to have models inside your HTML template, right? So now I'm going to go into my signup.html. At this point, it's still blank. There's nothing inside. So I'm going to define my form inside here now. Just copy umbrella create code. So this is the code we need inside that form. This is the code we need. So come down here. We now can see that our sign up form has our sign up HTML template has the heading sign up and then the form here, still with the CSI token and the form quest. So this is similar to what we've been creating. So this is what is going to be rendered to the user when you go to that part/account/sign up. This view will be invoked to send the user creation form inside this template and then to be rendered here to the user. So we're going to test all of these things very, very shortly. So now that we're done with that, we're going to update our link. We need to have, like I said, a logic where if you are logged in, you can see certain things if you're not logged in. So I'm just going to update the base.html file with this sign up so that if you are not logged in, it will tell you to log in, sign up. So once we're done with that, we're now going to commit our code, test our code, commit and push to people. So let me quickly go to the base and lastly, I need to update this line of code where I have login. I can simply say that they should also be able to sign up, especially if they are not users or authenticated and log in and sign up. That's what is required, so that we can have a smooth experience, user experience. So I'm going to restart the server now to see all the changes we've made. Python manage.py. On server. So I expect to see all the updates now. I'll log in, create an account. Once this server spins up, okay. No module blur account. Okay, let me check. Problem should be coming from the project settings .py. So I need to put comma here. Let's see. No module name log account. Oh, sorry. Yes, this should work. So this is not properly styled, so I'm just going to style this now. It should be a button. And this would be that. Onto my base, push to have this 112. If I refresh, let's have this. Um, so now this is better. Let me try and log in and have James. And see it has a validation, error validation check. You can enter the wrong username. Right, and log in properly to take me to the listings page. All right, now I'm inside the listing page. And as you can see, now that I've logged in, it's allowing me to create a new blog post now because I added a tag to say that if you are authenticated, that's the only time you should be able to create a post here in the base.html. So this is where the logic comes from. Here I said, if you are authenticated, if the user object is authenticated, then you should see the user, his username, ability to create a new blog post, and then ability to log out. But if he's not authenticated, we should only see login, which is what we saw before I logged in. So now from here, I can just log out. And then you see everything is smooth now. Let me try and create an account. So now we create an account with Maxify and password. So now by signing up, I should be able to now log in with Maxify credentials. Once I do this, now I am logged in with Maxify credentials. Maxify, new blog post, create one. I think I can also delete blog posts from this. Let's say I log out, then I can implement it also that you won't be able to see this edit. Let me log out first. I click on a post. Okay, you can still, or I can change this to say, you can only see this. I think that's the blog detail. We can say, yeah, here now, you can say, okay, you can only see this if the user is authenticated, right? So we can do if user is user authenticated, right? We want to see this, then you can just do and if. So now, if you are not logged in, you won't have the ability to edit or delete anything. With this new logical tags we have here, let me try to refresh and see the links that have disappeared. But if I log in now, then I should be able to now see the links back so that I can now edit and delete posts. If I go to the third post, you can now see the links are back. So this is how you can implement login, logout into your applications, right? And see, this was the demo application I showed to us the other time at the beginning of this course. So now we've implemented, we've understood how forms work. We've talked about Django views and how they have these generic view classes that we can inherit from to simplify the process of creating our own custom views with logic. Then we've looked into models, how to define our models and register them in the admin interface. We talked about making forms looking prettier using Django cryptic form. And lastly, we've discussed authentication system. So this is a basic authentication. The next class, we're going to be looking at a more advanced authentication flow with custom user model where we can change certain fields. Let's say we want to sign up a user now. In this case, if you see our authentication, it just has username and password. We can override these default settings by requesting for users to pass in just their email address and password fields. And then we can even add more fields, like let's say we want to know the age or the sex of the user before signing them up into the system. So those kind of logic are possible with custom user model. So we're looking at custom user model, password reset, password, forget password flows, sending emails back and forth for all of those flows. We'll be looking at detailed custom user model in the next class. Then we'll also be building a full bookstore application where with search features and batch pagination and a whole lot of other features we've not been able to cover so far. So yes, that's it for today's class, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a very simple blog post, but these features will try to explain in this class will really form the foundation for us to build more complex applications, right? By God's grace, in the next class, I won't take so much time in explaining some of these concepts because I assume you're already familiar with them. So basically, that's it. If you guys need the source code for this, for this project, I'll send it to you guys on GitHub just in case you want to see. So now, as we conclude today's session, I would like to say a big thank you to all of you. Sorry for the technical issues we had last Saturday, which is yesterday. Then we're not able to complete. So in the next class, I'm going to do a pre-recorded session again to explain the bookstore application we're going to be building, right? So thank you guys for your understanding. You can always drop me questions in the chat group if you have any questions. And then the links to the materials will be updated on GitHub. You can actually check to clone the materials. Okay. So if you have any further questions, feel free, like I said, to drop them in the WhatsApp group for me to see and then dissect. So thank you guys for your time. See you in the next class.